Earlier, I briefly mentioned that the consumer interface has a default method called and then. With this method, we can chain consumers, which basically means we can run many operations in sequence. Let me show you how cool and powerful this is. So I'm going to create a list of strings and initialize it using list of. Here I'm going to pass 3 strings like A, B, and C. Now, you learn that the consumer interface represents an operation that takes a single argument and doesn't return a value. So let's declare a variable of type consumer of string. I'm going to call this print. Now we should set this to a lambda expression. This lambda expression should match this method. So it should have a parameter of type string, and it shouldn't return a value. So here we add string item goes to. Let's just print this item. Now, once again, we can simplify this lambda expression by removing this type, because the Java compiler knows that here we're consuming a string. So the item that we pass here is a string object. So there's no need to explicitly specify the type. Now, because we have a single parameter, we can get rid of the parentheses. That is better. So here we're declaring an operation called print that takes an item and prints it on a terminal. Now let's declare another operation that prints a string in uppercase. So once again, consumer of string, we call it print uppercase. Pay attention to how I'm naming these consumers. The name of this variable clearly represents this operation. So once again, item goes to, we want to print this, but first we want to convert it to uppercase. Pretty straightforward, right? Now we want to iterate over this list, and for each item, we want to execute these 2 operations in sequence. So we call list.forEach. Here we should pass a consumer object. So I'm going to pass print. Now this consumer has a method called and then. Now look at the parameter of this method. Here we can pass a second consumer. So we can pass print uppercase. Now, when I run this program, you'll see that for each item, first we're going to print that item, and then we're going to print it in uppercase. Take a look. There you go. That's pretty cool. But let me explain how the magic happens under the hood. So I'm going to put the caret on the method name and then. Now on the top, if you go to the navigate menu, look at the shortcut for declaration. On Mac, it's Command and B. On Windows, it's probably Control and B. So I'm going to press Command and B. Now you can see the source code of this method. So let's see what's happening here. This method takes a consumer object called after. First, it ensures that this argument is not null. Pretty straightforward. Now, look at what is returned here. We're returning a lambda expression. This lambda expression represents a consumer object. So it takes an argument of type t, and in the body of this lambda, first we call the accept method of the current consumer. So we're executing the current operation, and then we're calling the accept method of the second consumer. This is how 2 operations get executed sequentially. So every time we call this method, we get a new consumer. And that means, once again, we can call and then on that new consumer to chain another task. Let me show you. So back to our demo, once we call and then, we get a new consumer object. So here we can call and then pass another consumer object, like print. So with this code, we're executing 3 operations in sequence. Look at the result. There you go. We're printing each item 3 times on the terminal. So this is how we can chain consumers.